It's great to be with Mayor Heather Jansen from Villa Hills today, and we're all dealing with the corona pandemic in our community and our county, and especially in your city. So, Mayor, there are a couple of key questions that have been coming up that you wanted to both discuss and maybe get to the community. So I'll let you maybe just update us what some of those issues are that you're dealing with and questions you'd like to address.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I know we've been in conversations in the past. The key concern in Villa Hills that I'm seeing is trying to encourage people to maintain social distancing, but to what point city involvement occurs. So we're very unique in that we have our own city parks, but we also have a Villa Madonna Academy. We have the monastery with the sisters there, and we also have Madonna Manor. And there's a nice area. They encourage people to walk around and enjoy the outdoors. There's soccer fields, which the city does lease them each year, but we have shut those down based on what the governor has indicated and stipulated. The soccer fields, the benches, the playground equipment over at the Civic Club, I've asked them to shut down playground equipment just from an upkeep, the maintenance and sterilizing. But I don't want to discourage people from getting out and enjoying the fresh air in a responsible way with their families. The problem that's occurring, I know that's frustrating a lot of my residents, is we're seeing more and more groups of teenagers or even where people are getting together in a circle of cars with their minivans open, and they're sitting in the back and they're talking separately, 6 feet apart, but they're within that group that the governor has since suggested that we avoid encouraging or bringing people together that way. So I'm kind of confused as to where the parameters of social distancing lie in that regard.
Well, I think you bring up a point that I think every city is dealing with and every community. And I think that as we've talked about briefly and talking to other mayors, is that number one, it is a city decision. You all have just chosen to do a certain thing in Villa Hills with the parks, playground equipment. I think we've all pretty much shut down our parks playground equipment, but encouraging people to just get out and walk. And I think in terms of the Villa Hills, and I know that I walk that loop often, but because it's privately owned, the nuns, in that case, they own the property. They can decide to say, hey, we're not allowing anybody else on property, just as you might at your own house. So that's kind of to me, it seems to be pretty much of a clear question, right, of whether or not people control who's on their property. Secondarily, though, to your point about people who might gather in a public parking lot, if and it seems like the governor has also pointed out, if it's a gray area and you're kind of wondering, I wonder if this is something we should be doing, then we probably shouldn't. That even though we're supposedly 6 feet away, that we're really not supposed to be gathering, and because we give the opportunity for the virus to pass one person to another. And so I think that if it's in someone's private property, they could really break the recommendation of what the governor's saying, right? I mean, you could have 20 people get in your driveway, police or your city police or county police, really, we're not able to tell what people are going to do on their property. We just hope that they do the safest thing and the best thing, which is really not to gather. Both kids, adults, elderly, anybody in between, that we really shouldn't be gathering unless it's the people who live in that home, your immediate family, your children. That's kind of what the expectation is, I think. And
Right.
I think it was well said by maybe another local mayor recently, was that, if you have to kind of figure out a way around the order, we probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Unfortunately, I think what happens is, in our case, a lot of our residents are really good at following social distancing. They're out with their families and they're walking, and I try and get out and run just for my general health, and I'll avoid people on sidewalks and try and keep safe and my safe distance, and I'll see other people doing that. I think the frustration lies for those people who just aren't, I don't want to, put a label or anything, but it seems like a complete disregard that I've had residents send me emails saying that their son has been going out with his friends and their parents who've been letting their kids off to go hang around in neighborhoods together.
Sure.
And what I've done is I've told the officers to go and say if there's a situation like that, to tell them that, that's not following the rules of social distancing, and that's really all I can do.
Right.
If it's a pickup basketball game in somebody's driveway, we've had somebody call and say that their neighbors having a bunch of kids over. They know they're not in the house. Could an officer go over there? And I can say, sure. I mean, I can see where the fine line is, because it'd be one thing if the basketball hoop were in the front of the house and the kids are playing, an officer drives by and says, hey guys, it's social distancing. We've got an emergency situation here. You need to break it up. But what happens when it's in the backyard?
Sure.
And we're not, I don't want to push the military state, and we're certainly no means in that situation, but it enables for me to be able to tell our residents there's not a whole lot I can do. I can understand their frustrations.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think, and it sounds like you're dealing with it in about as best way possible, which is you're giving friendly reminders from the officers to the neighbors. But what people do on their private property is really their call. And we all hope that is, as community members, neighbors, that we hope that everyone kind of acts responsibly. I was talking to someone, in fact, just the other day about the idea that, if there are kids gathering in the street, and they're playing kickball or basketball, but in a public space, well, of course, that's different because the officers can say, hey, guys, you need to break this up. But if it's on someone's private driveway, front, back, it is gray. And you just hope that everybody uses their head and says, it makes the best judgment. But I don't think there's a black and white answer to that. But it sounds like, and I know you're probably losing sleep over it, to try and manage that with both your staff and the officers, because the officers don't want to be annoying to anyone else either. You're trying to keep everybody safe. And I do think that ultimately is this: if you find if it's non-family members who are within close proximity to each other, or we're sharing surfaces, we're sharing whatever. I mean, from the grocery store all the way to sharing a soccer ball or basketball, that's an opportunity to transfer that which can make us sick. So let's not do it. And I think that's kind of how simple it is. And I have had friends who've been on the property at Villa, and an officer was very nice and said, "Hey, we're really trying to minimize this and shut the space down." And because the owner of it, the nuns have said, "Hey, we're shutting that property down because we have someone who's, we don't want anybody to get sick." And I think that's appropriate. You guys seem to be handling it great in these gray areas, because we don't want to shut everything down where you can't leave your home, and that won't help anybody.
Right. I think even myself, when I think I try to do my best to follow the guidelines, and even when I think I'm doing the best I can, like then all of a sudden I see, when you're out running or you're out somewhere in the public, to basically leave everything at the door. Go clean, go take a shower so you don't bring anything into anybody, and then go. So you can think you're even doing the best there is.
Yeah.
And right now, I mean, if we have to go to the grocery, I'm now searching for a mask to wear,
Yep.
just to keep everybody safe. I think, unfortunately, while there's a lot of people in my city who are very good at following the guidelines and they realize this extends beyond themselves. It's not about what I'm doing to save me. It's what I'm doing to help save everybody else as well. There are just a number of very hardcore instances, and Facebook doesn't make it any easier, where they're not following the guidelines to a severe extreme. And even in the case where I mentioned that the one resident whose son keeps going out to hang out with his friends, I mean, she even mentioned that her husband was symptomatic. I mean, he hadn't been tested, but if you can't get your own kid to understand, it's hard to really explain the situation and the severity of it.
Well, I got to tell you, I admire you for toughing it through one of the toughest jobs in the elected office as a city mayor, and you're handling that very well. But I think you just said it very well. It's not about even just worried about yourself. It's worrying about your neighbors and taking those necessary steps. And the simple fact that things are evolving day to day, week by week, if not hour by hour, that we're
Right,
learning and we're getting better about how to take action. And the things we may have done a week ago, we may not do today. And
right.
so yeah, and so I think it's important that hopefully this message gets out. We'll get this out to the community and continue social distancing. And I just referred to we referred to some of the masks. I've got a homemade mask here
Oh,
that
good.
mine made for me. Um, and never thought I would be talking about wearing a mask in public in my lifetime, of course. But I think we're all trying to. These are new times. We're trying to take action to keep our neighbors safe, and that's you just said it so perfectly. But I do appreciate getting together with us and with me and chatting, and hopefully we'll continue to help our community stay safe.
That's great. Thank you, Judge.
Be good. Be well.
You take care.